Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Playful Humans podcast. I'm your host, Mike Montague, and my guest this week is Tom Glaser. He is the senior happiness superhero at fullheartliving.com. That means he is also the author of Full Heart Living. You can check out that book, and the creator of Conversation Sparks. We're going to learn more about that today as well. There's the book. And you can find him at all the social medias there too, Full Heart Living. If you would like to learn more about Playful Humans or join the discussion here, you can find Playful Humans on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, anywhere you can listen to podcasts. We certainly love a subscription there as well. Here we go.
Don't wait for tomorrow. Keep chasing the sunshine. Go right
All right, Tom, welcome to the show. We like to start with the joke of the week. The joke of the week is brought to you by national anthems. National anthems are the world's most popular country songs. There you go. Did you hear the joke about the guy who is really bad at limbo?
I did not hear the joke about the guy who's bad at limbo.
He walked into a bar.
Oh, Mike!
There you go. We got it. All right. Now, I want to learn more about you and what you have going on. Tell us about Full Heart Living and how this came to be for you.
You got it. Can I just say you already pumped me, right? I liked the dancing part, right? That felt so good. Even though I'm sitting, right? It's
that transition to get you into like the present moment. You're like, okay, now we're ready to go. It's showtime and we're on.
Well, and the power of moving the body too, specifically the music. Here it comes again. I guess we're supposed to keep dancing, Mike.
It was not supposed to loop, but there you go. That one for you.
Somebody wants us to keep dancing.
They do.
So yeah, ironically, Full Heart Living came about from the unhappiest period of my adult life. I had my dream job. I was going to retire there. I had my life kind of mapped out, right? Things changed when a new coworker showed up who just despised the ground I walked on. I tried everything I could to make it work with this person, and it just kept going downhill. I got depressed because my dream job turned sour. But in the midst of this depression, I noticed happier people all around me, and I just got really curious. I started observing, then I started asking questions, and it snowballed into, first of all, video. So I interviewed people on camera, happier people. What makes them tick? What do they do? And then it snowballed.
I wouldn't know anything about that.
If I knew you, you would have been included, I'm sure. Snowballed into the book, and then public speaking gigs, and then the conversation spark. So in a nutshell, that's how it all came about.
Yeah, I think it's a very similar story to mine. I've always been a playful human. I've been an entertainer and just love playing in sports and games and board games and anything to do with having fun and playing with friends and family. But I think for me, especially during the pandemic, I needed to refocus on that. I was getting a little too grown up. I was trying to, do the adulting thing, and it wasn't working out for me. And I needed to remind myself that, like, I am fun. This is who I am. And when I'm living my full, best, wholehearted life, that's who I am naturally. And I've kind of found that, like, anything else I'm doing is not shining that light as bright. It's constricting what I'm capable of. Did you find the same thing, that when you kind of found this, you were able to open up and be more of yourself, and it's not really being inauthentic? I mean, I'm never going to be the JoJo the Idiot Circus Boy clown like Robin Williams, Jim Carrey going 100 miles an hour, but I'm going to be bigger than what I think I show most people.
Oh, isn't that nice? I love hearing that, right? To me, that's what life is all about. It's this continual unfolding and rediscovery of who we truly are. And yes, to answer your question, I did find that. So the truth is that that job that I mentioned, it was my dream job. It did allow me to express so many parts of myself. That's why it was such a good fit. And it's like, I feel like the universe had another plan for me. Like the universe wanted us to dance a little longer a few minutes ago when
Mhm.
the music looped unexpectedly. The universe wanted me to do some different things. Like I said, I was sort of attached. I had a plan. I had my life mapped out. I was going to stay at that job. And there were these other things like getting on podcasts, might I mention?
Mhm.
We would not be here right now because I would be working that other job if
Yeah.
things hadn't changed. And so ultimately, I am grateful, though there are times I still miss my dream job.
Tell us more about that. What did you always want to be when you grew up, when you were a kid, and how did you find like that career path?
So I had two big interests. Um, Theater, performing. Interesting that you're a performer. I didn't know that about you. Uh, is one, and I that's what I thought I would do. Um, but I also had, from a really young age, this may sound odd to some people, but really it came out during high school. I had a phenomenal psychology teacher. And so I was also really drawn to the study of human behavior. I think humans are infinitely fascinating. Everybody has a story. And so in college, I got afraid I wouldn't be able to support myself as an actor. So I studied psychology, went that route. So I'm a psychologist. And then I dabble in performing as an adult. So it's still definitely a hobby, and it does bring great joy.
That's funny. I feel like I'm interviewing an alternate metaverse version of myself because my dad was really into psychology and he started teaching us things when we were very young. I told the example a lot, but when we were like kids and I was complaining about a bully taking my toy, he goes, "Oh, that's easy. Just find another toy, act like it's the coolest thing in the room. And then when he steals that one, you go pick out the toy you wanted to play with at the beginning." And so
Did you try that? How did it work?
yeah, it worked. Yeah, it worked. And so from then on, I was like all about my dad's psychology lessons and stuff.
You were
But
a
I
convert.
would say I went the other way. I probably try to perform and stuff more, and then I dabble in psychology with
Yes.
sales training and personal
Yes.
development and goal setting and all kinds of other psychology things. I get really into. Like biases and productivity and energy management, but mostly these
Nice.
conversations that
Okay.
matter with other people. So I'm really
Well,
interested to
here's the
dive in
thing.
for that.
All these streams, there's so much overlap. That's what amazes me, right? So I've studied psychology most. Um, I've studied Buddhism a fair amount. I've studied acting. Like they all ultimately say the same thing, right? When we are in the moment, we're doing the best psychologically. It's the best performing that comes out, and we are practicing Buddhism. So it's just being in the present moment is huge. And I think that's a metaphor for life. My hunch is that
Yeah,
other
I totally agree.
and other fields is the same, right? If it's sales, right, when you're connecting and you're in the moment, you're going to have better sales. When you're managing employees, you're in the moment and you're really with the other person, hearing them, seeing them, they're going to perform better.
Oh, I think that's exactly it. And for me, it's really interesting that um, when you're in the present moment, I feel like that's when you're full heart living. That is when you're being yourself because you're not filtering yourself. Those
Correct.
inhibitions and things
Yes.
drop, and you just kind
Yes.
of let yourself out. And so, whether that's an
Yes.
individual conversation like this, podcast especially, I feel like it's really easy for me to tune in and pay attention. And then for other things, like when we're public speaking or on stage or when you're doing a theater performance, it's easy for me to get into that flow state because I
Yes.
can't be editing myself and paying attention to what I'm doing at the same time.
Improv in particular really teaches these skills really well, and it's so fun. I love improv classes. I think that I maybe laugh harder and more consistently in improv classes than probably anywhere else.
Yes, and what I like to add about that is,
Okay, I hope the listener caught that.
yeah, there you go.
Yes, and
I
is a
think
huge
that
lesson in
life
improv.
is an improv. We try to
Yes.
pretend like we can plan and organize
Oh my
things and
gosh.
strategize our day, and then something like a pandemic happens, and it reminds you that we're all making this up as we go along
Yes.
anyway. I feel
Yes.
like we need to lean more into those skills
Yes.
than the planning and the processes and the systems. I think there's a place for all of that, but I think our society is over adapted because of computers and big data and everything. And now we're finding that AI can write blog posts and create scripts for podcasts. And I think if we have robots writing our script, we're going to lose something
Oh
that's
yes.
magical about
Yes.
connecting with another human being. Do you have any thoughts on maybe just general advice of full heart living and what that means? And
Yes.
you are science based, so I think that sometimes people think it's either or, but I've kind of found a mixture of both works best for me. What do you think?
Oh my gosh, I'm so with you on that. And there is some science in the book, but it's way more experiential. That's what I really wanted to emphasize is that we all know happier people. And when we spend more time with happier people, we get happier because of the contagion effect, right? We pick up on other people's emotions and it's more fun to be with happier people. So the reason I called it full heart living, and initially my working title for a long time, Mike, was choosing happiness, right? Because it is a lot about the choices we make. Um, but I realized there was something deeper that everyone I interviewed had to say, and that is that happier people have no less hardship than any of the rest of us. It's all in how they approach it. So happier people have down times, they have sad times, they have grief, they have anger, challenges, everything that all of us struggle with. And there's no evidence that they have any less of it. What they do is they accept it. They approach everything with the full heart, the whole heart. So to compare it to less happy people, and many of my clients struggle with this, less happy people want to suppress the so-called negative emotions or experiences. They want to not feel sad. They don't want to feel down. They don't want to feel anger. So they're pushing, pushing, pushing. But when you push one side, you can't help but push the other side. So if you want less of this, you're also going to have less joy. Happier people, when they're down, they go, oh, I'm down now. They accept it. They embrace it. They know it's temporary. They let themselves fully have the feeling. So again, full heart. So it passes maybe more quickly. They might
I
get
think
over
so in
things.
most
Yeah.
cases. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would add two things to that. One is
Please.
I think people look for permanent states, and that's not
Right.
the way that life works. And so it's
Mm-mm.
actually the movement between happy and sad that makes you appreciate both of them. And if you
Correct.
try to, like you said, eliminate one, you
Mm-hmm.
eliminate the other, and then you get into this flat line, and
Mm-hmm.
things don't work well when you flatline as a human
Mm.
being, right?
No,
That's not
no.
the state we're looking
That
for.
everything looks gray instead of
Yeah.
colorful. Yeah.
And I think the other thing that I appreciate of that is just making memories and making magic in life. That the most interesting things happen on those edges. They happen on your really cool days or your really bad days. And so we all tend to remember where we were on 9/11,
Oh yeah.
or we happen to remember our wedding day or whatever it happens to be, that was that high school graduation or that special moment where you won a conference championship, or whatever it is for you that was magical. It's those that are interesting. So if we don't, like during the pandemic, it seems so long while it's happening because every day is just like watching the clock tick. But when you look back on it, you have to add 2 years to your memories now because we didn't make any new memories there. And so it feels like in retrospect that year flew by because nothing happened. And I don't think we want that for our life. We want a lot of memories, a lot of full life, and a lot of interesting stories to tell, not just like I really kept my Netflix queue cleared out, and I watched all of the shows. Right.
What I'm reminded of as you're talking here, Mike, is the importance of taking risks. So happier people, and there's a chapter on this, happier people do take more risks. And I'm not
Mm.
talking about jumping off a cliff without a parachute. Of course not. No, 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 no. Attend to safety. Take small steps over time. And like any muscle, risk taking takes practice and improves over time. The key to risk taking is again, not suppressing the fear that comes up. Oh, I'm kind of scared. You know, when I walk into an audition, I'm always nervous. It's
Yeah.
all, you know, it's you put yourself out there. It's hard, it's scary. Okay. So the question becomes, what do I need to do to support myself through the fear, through the challenge? That might be starting with the breath, right? Breathing more deeply, because most of us, when we're more nervous, we take more shallow breaths. It might be looking at what's going on in my head, you know, pumping myself up. You can do this, Tom. You're prepared. Reminding myself, you know, you got your monologue down.
Yeah, to me it's so interesting. The research shows that there's some states that humans can't do at the same time, right? Like you can't be scared and curious at the same time because through our evolution, nobody ever said, "Oh, there's a saber-toothed tiger. I wonder what he's thinking. Let me go have a chat with him." Like we're either freaked out and we're running and we're trying to survive and we're stressed, or we're open, we're playful, we're creative, we're
Yes.
full heart living. And
Yes.
so I think you have to find ways to get yourself back into
Yes.
that state. And I wanted to
And
highlight
we,
one other thing you mentioned about happy people, because did you ever see that study where they compared people that won the lottery to people that had an injury and became paralyzed? And it
uh,
was so interesting that, immediately the people that were paralyzed were in pain. They were trauma. They were really struggling with their happiness. And the people that won the lottery were elated. They thought it was the best thing that ever happened to them. But a year later, the people that became paralyzed were actually happier than the people that won the lottery.
isn't that
And there's a lot
amazing?
of reasons for that, but it's basically what you said about happy people find ways to be happy. It's not the events that
Hmm.
find them. And so when people become paralyzed, they start looking at what's really important in life.
Exactly.
When you win the
Exactly.
lottery, you find out that money wasn't the answer, and that depresses you, that you have everything you've ever wanted and you're still not happy.
Exactly.
Then you struggle with that, right? It's really interesting.
Yes. Yes. Beyond a very pretty low threshold, lower than most of us would think. Uh, you know, as long as our basic physical needs are met, so just out of poverty,
Mhm.
money has extremely little to do, a tiny little bit of influence on happiness, but it's almost statistically insignificant. Yeah.
Yeah, I think humans struggle with math in general, but diminishing returns is one that I find a lot of people, it causes them a lot of stress. That a
Mhm.
little bit of money goes a long way. A
Mhm.
lot of money goes a little bit further
Yes,
than what you
exactly.
would have. And so
Exactly.
eventually, what's another $1 billion to Jeff Bezos? Does he really make
Right.
him any happier at
No,
301 billion than 300
no,
billion or
no,
whatever?
no.
No, he doesn't even notice. And so I think that diminishing return, and we see that with hard work and other things too, that if you grind and you're really working, and that working some has really great health benefits to you. You're focused, you got responsibility, you got to put yourself together and go do
It
something for
brings
the day.
meaning to our lives. Yes.
But working 18 or 20 hours a day does not make you more successful, more happy,
Correct.
or get you
Correct.
further in life. That's wearing yourself out. It's burning
Balance.
out, and that
Balance.
last 30 minutes was basically worthless at that point.
Yes. Yes. I
So
feel too
interesting.
like I want to bring up mindfulness here too, because we can cultivate all these qualities by slowing ourselves down, by making space so that we know what is our truth, what is our limit, what is our true desire. The only way to do that is to slow down and engage in activities that bring us joy.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that's really what Playful Humans is all about, is finding
Yes.
those things in those moments. And that, you have to go do active play and recharge. Like just tuning out, having a drink and watching a show is restful a little bit, but it's not recharging. Recharging comes from finding the things that bring joy. And now I want to
Watching a
talk to you
show is
about,
distracting, right? It takes us out of the present moment. Yeah.
I wanted to talk to you about conversation sparks, and maybe we can play a game here as well. So you can find more about Tom Glaser at fullheartliving.com. Check out the book. That's a great place to start. Now, you also have these conversation cards called Conversation Sparks, where, I love, because I'm always looking for interesting questions. I do host 2 podcasts. I've interviewed like over 500 people. And even when it's Thanksgiving dinner or a wedding reception or something, I think interesting questions and great conversations really make a big difference. So tell us why you created those. What are they, and how do we use them?
Well, in a nutshell, the top learnings from my whole book and public speaking journey have been that happier people connect deeply with others, themselves, and their passions, and they serve others. So as I was first doing my book tours, I was hoping to inspire people to do those things. And I would do a kind of a standard book talk. And at the end, I would say, I hope I've inspired you. And people would look at me like deer in the headlight. They had no idea how to do it. They understood what I was saying, but they didn't know how to do it. So very quickly, I added an experiential component to all my book talks, leading people through this activity that I'm going to lead you through. And by the way, you're taking a risk. I'm just going to acknowledge that right now because you have no idea what's coming. Quickly, the framework.
It's fun for me.
Right. Yes. The framework is I'm going to give you a conversation starter. You don't know what that is. You're going to talk for up to 2 minutes about that. You're just going to respond spontaneously. I'm going to be listening to themes and values. And then I'm going to repeat back to you what I heard as your themes and values. So in a nutshell, that's what it is. So if you're ready, that makes sense.
All right, let's cue the music. Here we go. It's time for Conversation Sparks.
Okay, Mike, talk about a time you felt the most alive and why.
Ooh, I'm going to have to say it is something on stage. So I got to do some really cool events, and I could pick a bunch of them. But the one that always comes to mind was I opened for Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons at a big outdoor theater venue here in Kansas City. And so it was one of my first times on a big stage, and there were about 10,000 people in the audience. They were filtering in there. So I don't know exactly how many were in, when I was going on stage. But I had performed a lot of times in small clubs and done a lot of stuff for radio and other things. But this is the first time I ever really saw a crowd that was so big, you couldn't pick any faces out of it. It turned from like an audience to like a crowd. And I was on stage and playing music and doing my thing. And I was really excited for it. But I went to talk for the first time and tell a joke. And I took a deep breath in and grabbed the microphone, and nothing came out. I played another song. I just bailed, and I was like, okay, apparently I needed another 2 minutes to just acclimate to this environment. And so I took a deep breath. I kind of took it all in. I played the song. I thought about what I wanted to say again. And then on the next song, I got into it, and I finally, got the crowd to clap and cheer. And I got into that moment, but it was one that was just kind of so overwhelming. Like I took a deep breath in, and the crowd sucked it right back out. And so for me, I really felt alive in that moment. It was fun, and the rest of the show went well. And so we got a great response from the crowd. I got invited back, and I got to feature some cool singers and stuff on stage of other people too. So got to introduce several singers, and it's a memory I'll have for the rest of my life for sure.
Oh, wow. Mike, thank you for sharing that with me. Wow. I'm just going to take 1 second. I'm going to take a breath myself. To me, this is a story about passion. It's a story about second chances. It's a story about doing just what we were talking about a few minutes ago. Taking a risk, finding a way to support yourself. You lost your voice for a second there. Whoa. And you quickly figured it out. You just played music, got yourself settled, and then you took in this experience, which to me is almost indescribable, right? How many of us can even, like, I get nervous just thinking about that, being in front of 10,000 people. Whoa, so many people that you couldn't even find, take one person, their face. That's amazing. And you made it fun. And it wasn't just about you, from what I heard either. This was also about you introducing these other acts that you talked about. So you believe these are themes that are values that are important to you, kind of spreading the joy.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think I take away two things from it. What I hope is my personality is that I'm doing this for other people. I want the audience to have fun, and I do a podcast because I want the guests to look good, right? It's not really about me, but I think there's also this thing when I think about the really big events that nobody really should have that kind of stage. It's not like you can ever really deserve 10,000 people's attention. And so I find it sort of like risk taking, almost like, the X Games, or you said, like, jumping out of an airplane or something. It's just like something that I want to experience. And if somebody's got to do it, I might as well do it. And if it doesn't go well, I'm okay with that too. It's really more about leaping than it is about the results in those moments. When I have big stages like that, I find that part is the part that's fun for me. And then being able to feature other people and stuff. I don't know what I do know what I would do. I get to do keynote speeches a lot, but I feel like there's a safety net in having a support staff of other people behind you and other artists and
Of
entertainers.
course there is.
Another song to play if you blank out or something.
Yes, absolutely. So may I ask how connected you felt to yourself and to me as we did that activity?
Yeah, I think I had to definitely do introspection. Again, I like to facilitate conversations for other people. So normally I'm on the other end of that.
Yeah.
So there was a little bit of uncomfortableness of talking about myself
Yeah.
at the beginning. But then I'm really glad that you heard that in there when you can summarize and repeat back. And I think even infer a little bit. Some of those things are not things that I said, but I think especially in sales that I do, but also in life and podcasts, when you can tell somebody else's story better than they can tell it themselves or add some insight into it from the outside perspective, it's really powerful because we all can't read the label from inside the bottle. We're only getting our half of the conversation. And so when somebody feeds it back to you and you feel like you connected, it's a very powerful and helpful thing.
Yes, and same here. I had to listen really deeply, so I had to get out of my head to try to, summarize your themes and values. And you disclosed something to me that I didn't know about you, and a really special thing that few people experience, speaking in front of 10,000 people.
Well, I think it's funny. I like sharing that story too for other people. Is I think when you see somebody on stage, you think, wow, I can't believe they're not scared or they're not stage fright and stuff. Like I would be a wreck if I had to do that. And most people who go on stage are, because they're not psychopaths. So everybody's nervous. We're just doing it scared rather than letting that be a reason to stop us. And so I hope that's another lesson that people can take away from it. But anything else that we missed about Conversation Sparks or Full Heart Living, any messages you want to share with the audience, how we can help you or you can help us?
Oh yeah, just check me out at fullheartliving.com. I'm on Instagram and Facebook, YouTube. You'll find me. Full Heart Living.
And good stuff. You have individual, coaching, psychotherapy, that kind of stuff.
Yep.
as well as
Classes,
speaking engagements
workshops.
or these products as well to check
Yep.
out. So I definitely recommend you go check out that Full Heart Living. Oops. And for Playful Humans, you can find us at playfulhumans.com. We have all kinds of good stuff going on there. We have quiz and find out your playful personality. Not everybody loves to play the same way. Tom and I like to get on stage. We like to have conversations and interact with people. Maybe you like to go explore or do athletics or solve puzzles and games. Go check those out at playfulhumans.com/quiz. And until next time, go play, everybody. Have a great one.
Or dance.
Don't wait for tomorrow. Live for today. Keep on chasing the sunshine and go out and play.
Hey, you did it. You made it to the end. But don't worry, there are plenty of more videos where that came from. Just click subscribe to Playful Humans to get notified about our future videos. Now, what are you still doing here? Go play.